spinning. We've got Bob here as our Pel. Hopefully you can hear me all right. We're going to try to go through this sort of quick. Things I like about spins is they can be a high percentage shot for you. It doesn't have to just be a niche thing that only ever works sometimes. So a few key things I think are super important, and hopefully I'll address them in a 2 to 5 minute period here for you. One thing to keep in mind is that all the parts matter. So if you're not in a good position, it's not really going to work. If you don't keep your eye on the ball or looking at the target that you're trying to hit, your success rate goes down. Same thing with trying to hit a baseball or do anything like that. All the things you've done to lead up to throwing your spin matter as well. I can't just open and spin and expect that to generally work. Sometimes you might land it like by surprise, but once someone sees that, it basically is never going to work again. It's pretty easy to read once you see it. Your feet will matter because it's going to help you get into good positioning, and your fakes, your feints, your subsequent shots beforehand will all matter as well. So all of that plays a part in this. There's plenty of people who are just like, yeah, I'm here and I'm fighting, and they just, and they kill somebody and they feel awesome about it. I've seen people do it all the time. I see high-level people do it all the time. They do this kind of like, dances with wolves or singing in the rain or whatever thing where they've thrown their spin and they're looking up at the sky and their arms are outstretched and they're just kind of doing this rotation thing. We don't have to do any of that, and frankly, this will be better if we don't do any of that. So we'll just talk about front spins or the 5-1-2 to start here, where we're going to end up hitting this sword side hip, and we're going to have a rotation with it. And what will help is if we've already been working and moving to the right, same principle as anything. When I step over here, people subsequently turn, which then presents this hip, makes that hip become available. They don't want us there, so they turn with us. So whatever we want to do to start to set that up, if that's sort of foot forward, fine. Why don't we just start that way for simplicity? We've done some kind of fake at their sword side hip, or we've just kind of done something high at their board shoulder. But the whole point is that when we're doing that, we're ending up in this position, off center. I'm way over here, past Bob. That puts me in a great position. I've loaded up on my front leg, so my sword leg, and I'm gonna step across, look at this target right here at the hip, hit it, rotate, and hopefully end up back in a good defensive position away from my opponent, all right? So the idea is here we are, we've thrown our fake, we've stepped, I've loaded this leg up, I start my rotation, I'm looking right at the hip here, bring myself across, I really just chop the hip and step on through, rotate myself through, and now I'm back in another good position to fight them. If I do that towards the camera, same idea, we're here. I start my whatever low fake or low to high shoulder, or I can just kind of whatever little roll, high shoulder, and when I'm starting that, I'm stepping, loading this foot, eye on the hip, bringing myself through, hit the hip, watch through, rotate. I do have to take my eye off the location, but that's okay. I've kept it on the hit location as long as possible to hopefully maximize my success and know whether, oh God, I hit them in the leg, or oh crap, I hit their shield, or boom, I killed them. Excellent. I can't stress this enough. People will do this and they've already whipped their head around. They can't see what they're throwing at, and they just blast this part of my leg all the time. They miss it. They're not on target. Look where it is, hit it, cool. But Jamie, what if they see where I'm looking? Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. You can just stare at it, it's fine. And as you practice and you get more proficient, you'll be able to do the same thing you already do with fighting, and you'll be able to look kind of wherever you want all the time, and you're just gonna be able to look there. It's very quick when you actually do the motion, right? So this is the 5-1-2, this is just kind of breaking through each part. And that's a pretty simple spin. And since I already like to throw sword side hip anyways, and since we build sword side hip by throwing like, in hips, or we're throwing, doubles, hips. Cool, all that motion built into doing this spin, right? We've got, boom, we hit them. We're in a good board foot stance now, right? We're ready to step back in, we're ready to re-fire through this. We can do the whole process. We can backspin off of this as well, which gives us that DDS, or that Delos double spin thing where we've gone, I'll just run through a bunch of shit over the next 5 minutes. Same idea, we do our fake, good position. This is from board foot forward. I've stepped across, loaded, good spin, I looked at it, I'm looking at it again, I've spun right back through, right? It's kind of fun. I don't really displace my shield. I know there's plenty of people who are like, when you throw this spin, you put your shield on your back. I can't bend my shoulder that far. I'm not that flexible. This is really hard. So I just try to get my body rotated in the right position to block the shot. Even better, when I do load this up, or I try to go in for this, a lot of times I'm presenting them with one of those natural baits to throw up my board shoulder. I'm getting a reputation for being hard to hit on the board shoulder, so it's getting harder and harder because now people don't necessarily throw there. But if I make it very tempting and I step in kind of low, a lot of times they throw board shoulder for me. So now I haven't had to worry about anything here. I'm able to roll this up and I'm really just chopping them in the hip as I rotate through. And that part's pretty easy. Backspin, super duper easy. Like that, less setup is required. And there's a few different ways to do it. It'll put you in a couple of different positions. One is just depending on how you want to start your feet. You can either continue to do what we've talked about, stepping to the right, and you can step, like say, your board foot across. I'm already loaded up for the backspin, right? Because I've stepped across the center line, and I've just let myself rotate, and I can just bring myself through. That's pretty easy. You can also take your back foot, you can step it across. I'm still looking at that target as long as I can, and I try to get myself back around to see that I'm throwing the backspin, kind of step myself through. Now I've ended up in this defensive position. I prefer, since I already like to step right anyways, to just start stepping here across, because I'm loaded, to just like let this thing fly and hit them. If you're having trouble getting on target, I just kind of keep this at my hip and let the tip kind of float pointed up. And it just kind of follows the hip. And that ends up just kind of working. Some trouble with this is that if you haven't done anything to get them set up, it's just it's still not going to work, right? At the beginning of this, we talked about the faking and the feigning and the conditioning part. If I just try to like, haha, now most of the time they block it. It just doesn't matter. If I put myself in a good position, same thing. I'm throwing. I've now put myself into a position to be able to rotate through and drop that backspin in and just step myself back through on the spin, right? Pelling it, really important. Just work it. You can just go practicing against fighters, but like there is some coordination to putting your feet in good places that matter. This is all just spinning in this direction. There are a couple people who really like to spin this backspin specifically going towards their right side, and they do it pressing, which is kind of cool. And they'll be able to kind of step in and they're just kind of throw themselves past the person when they do this spin. It's not one that I practice very much, but I've seen them do it, and they're kind of doing whatever they want to do. And it's like they just step themselves way over here and we'll do this backspin. Super duper wild, gets really deep, and it can do it on the press, which is, you know, pretty nasty. So that's just talking about how to do kind of this basic fundamentals of throwing either the front or backspin. And there's different ways to do this on top of that, okay? So even for just the 5-1-2, for example, I showed you how to do it sort of aggressively. You can do it defensively as well, and you can cover a ton of ground throwing this spin defensively, which is rad. And it's really my preference when I get someone to press in, and it's a little harder with Bob here to do that, since obviously he can't press in. But same idea, we're able to throw these sorts of hips, where they're able to press us, and we can still load up and throw our hip. And if we're watching when we throw that hip, I'm just kind of pushing myself away, we're already flowing away from the person. And 1v-minis are, you know, so like fighting 2 people, 3 people, whatever, and they're gonna push you. You're able to step over, throw your shot, and step way over here. I mean, I've covered a ton of distance and put myself in a pretty good position. It's just, yeah. So that's at least these spins. I could talk about it for, I mean, I guess I technically have like an hour plus of content for just how to throw these couple of spins, but hopefully that answers a few questions. I may have to put this on YouTube. We'll find out. Maybe I'll just cut that maybe anyways. And if you have any other questions or comments in this, if I missed something, because I tried to go quick here for this, watching the kid, you know. We'll just, I'll try to address them as I can. So.